Since we are now Duxon experts, we're going to finally talk through all of the fights in Nature of Progress. We'll also circle back on that discussion of Veterans Edge stacks and how they're going to be impacting Master Mode operations. That and more on this episode of the Escape Podcast for Star Wars The Old Republic. Our broadcast astromech today is EPC 330. And playing alongside me is Seema. Hi, Seema. How's it going?
Hey, Max. Actually going pretty well. In the world of SWTOR, I've been sort of going back and forth, but this week I've been doing a little leveling on... I have a low-level assassin and a low-level operative. So I've been doing little conquest things with them, and they've actually both hit conquest target now, so I have to figure out something else to do. But in the meantime, I also thought I would take a second look. I mean, I haven't been looking at achievements in general for myself in a while. So I started looking at the companion ones. And there's a number of companion ones that I would have thought I had done that I haven't done. And that is why I have with me my friend today, Akgal Usar, because I want to get 1,000 kills with him. So I decided I would bring him along with me. He's a Dashad, so he looks like a little bit like Kemval. But I find out too, there's another achievement that I can't get yet on this character again or ever on this character, because there's an achievement for rejecting him as a character, as a companion. I mean, so I have to do that on a different character. So another character is going to have to do that. Hopefully I haven't already acquired him on my one other character that has played through Kotet.
Oh, there he is. I see him.
Yeah, Coffee and Kotet. Yeah, that's why I wanted to jump. Look how tall he is.
He is
super tall.
Ginormous.
Yeah. So yeah, we're gonna kill Dashad are gonna kill a few things, and then I'm gonna switch to another character somewhere along the line, and I'm going to reject him. Like, I typically don't reject any.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Companions.
Yeah, I guess you can do that. You can just do it on another character. Do it on like Seema DVL 3.
And then also I was looking at Blizz, for instance, and Blizz, I'm missing one achievement on Blizz, which is like when you do the Alliance alert for Blizz, there's a quest that you do, and then there's a couple of things that if you do them correctly in the right order, answer some questions correctly, then you get achievements. And apparently I did 2 of them okay, but I wasn't following a guide or anything, so I didn't get the 3rd one. So now I have to find a character who also needs to do the Alliance alert for Blizz and do that. Anyway, so that's kind of where my mind is. I'm going to slowly start to work on companion achievements. Some of them I may never get, like the M14X, which is where you have to not win, but you have to do 20 war zones.
Yeah.
I mean, if it was 5 war zones, I might think about it, but 20 seems like a lot. That seems like...
Well, you could pretend it's 5 and only do 5, and then forget about it for a month, and then come back to it, and then do 5, and do 5 4 months in a row, and you'll get it.
Well, there you go. I'll work on that mindset. MFN this week, we also did a lot of quest stuff. We had a Rampage Galore week, especially since this week in Conquest there's like 6 different planets that have Rampage on them. I think we did 3 for sure, but we didn't do them all. And tonight in our ops team, which you didn't come to because you had something better to do, we also did some Conquest stuff. We went and did Heroic Eternity Vault, which was a ton of fun. And then we went and did heroic missions on Dantooine. So we got sort of towards that conquest target where if you do the weekly out there, you get a bunch of points. So anyway, that's my week in SWTOR. And then next week I'll be working on some pub characters. How about you, Max? How are things going with you?
Wow, there are a lot of rampages this week, aren't there?
Mm-hmm.
So had a good time on Tuesday as well, doing a bunch of rampages. I brought a character that I knew it would be harder to get on my own. I think I did 2 characters or 1.5 characters on Tuesday.
Oh, I
So
totally did too on Tuesday. Yeah.
I brought my Juggernaut, and my Juggernaut has the friendly leap, whatever that's called. Well, not
Intercede.
intercede, and it's got force choke. And as everyone knows, for my characters that I barely play, and I realize and find that I have abilities that amuse me to no end. While I'm in voice chat, I do yell out the ability every time I use it. so so all night I was going
He does.
force
He
choke,
does.
force choke, and it was quite fun. Yeah, there's 4 planets that have, or five planets, because it's black hole. So it's black hole and Terrace and Rishi and Dantooine and Balmora
And
all have
Balmora.
rampages.
And
Wow.
Osis.
Oh, and
And
Osis?
Yeah.
Wow, yeah, you're right. That's quite a bit. Quite a few. So if you want to get some extra characters, this is the week to do it. You can certainly crank some characters through real quickly. Just put on some YouTube or Netflix, and you'll get it done. And I was out of ops tonight. You are correct. So I missed getting a shot in on a couple of those operations. We should get into a little more of that progression stuff. And in fact, now I want to go in and try some of the master modes. And we'll talk about that tonight a little bit, about what the changes are to the master modes, especially the non-Duxon master modes, because Duxon master mode Nature of Progress is coming into the game soon. It's not here yet, but they have made some changes to the difficulty and made the master modes for all of the other level 70 operations more difficult. So we'll talk about that. But right now we can just talk about some news.
Now an Imperial News Network report.
So we've gotten a flurry of posts, 2 sets that we'll talk about here in the news segment, from the community team is the tag in the official forums. And I believe that might be Natha, who was introduced to us 2 weeks ago as Eric was going on leave for a little bit. So Tiny Eric can get introduced to the world. I don't know. I don't even know if it's the boy or girl. Did that get announced?
No.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll find out. We'll call it Tiny E until then.
He said baby.
Bebe. And
Probably found him on Ormonde.
We did get a little bit of a few of these posts. So the first 3 that I'll talk about is just some shout outs from a community perspective. So there was a shout out to someone for their art that they had posted and posted some links to. And this community team ID said, "Hey, great work. Love to see more. Good job. Thanks for posting that." So here's just somebody did some drawings on paper. So that was nice. Another one was another of the posts. Let's see. There was a really good one here, which we should be paying attention to, which is a server event, which is coming up this weekend on Starforge. So Starforge, the Elder Alliance Militia Guild is a Republic side guild, which is running a 9 p.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern server event and doing a whole bunch of stuff within their server event.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be tough for them to fit all that kind of stuff in. But it's ambitious, but sounds really cool.
Yeah, it does sound awesome.
It's got a PvP duel, a scavenger hunt, a dance/fashion show with neutral judges from our guild. It was called out. All right, if you say so. Group codex trivia, and then some notes on where they're going to run it. I think it's running in the guild stronghold, and I'll be doing some things around that. And then there was just another post that was just welcoming someone to the community. Hey, somebody posted in the official forums, "I'm a newish player, new subscriber. Hey, hi everybody," and they said hi. Welcome to the community. That's nice, and they should do that for every person who joins. which would be about 10,000 a month or however many are coming
Yeah.
out of the game. That's not going to work. But that was nice. So hopefully we'll see more of that. What else did we see? Oh, this is the next one I was talking about.
Yeah. So there was some feedback last week about the Veteran's Edge being removed from Master Mode, and so Eric posted that they're look at that that they were possibly going to bring Bolster into Master Mode to gain the effect they're looking for without giving the huge advantage that Veteran's Edge was giving, 30 stacks of that. So yeah, that's what they're looking at. The community seems very divided on it. Like there's a bunch of people who are struggling with Nightmare and Master Mode, and the loss of the veteran stack has made it impossible for them. And then there's a bunch of people who enjoy the challenge of doing it without Veteran's Edge, and yeah, so
Right. We'll talk about it
we'll
a little
just
bit
see
more
where
when
that
we
goes.
get sort of towards the end of our discussion of ops and what we expect out of Master Mode, Nature of Progress, Duxon as well. I read through a bunch of this. I read a bunch of the accounts. I can see both sides, and we'll talk about both sides. So I don't have a hot take. I don't have a rant on this one, unfortunately. But we can talk about it a little bit. And then in the next batch of posts that we got from community team again, which again we're expecting is Natha, was a four posts just saying, hey, yes, here's a bug. Here's a bug that we recognize. We heard about this. We'll keep an eye out. You guys should keep an eye out for it. We'll be trying to fix it. I'll give you updates. In fact, even for one of them, which was that guild strongholds were not showing up in the public guild listings, there was a workaround that was posted as well. So great. More of that, more interaction with the community in general, and more help from the community team. That's all good. That's all goodness in my mind. And if it's good in my mind, then it's unequivocally good.
That's right. So there's been a long thread ongoing for a while since November that Eric started about how loot drops work with the loot toggle. And the loot toggle is when you right click on your character portrait and you can choose loot discipline. You can say current discipline, which is how I have mine set, or you can set it to one of the other specs that your character could be, and it affects how your loot drops work.
Right.
But it doesn't work completely the way it's described. And so Eric was asking for people to provide examples where they get the wrong loot. And 9 or 10 pages of people doing that resulted in Dan checking in and saying, I'm reading this thread. I've taken all the data out of it. I've made sure the devs have it, and we'll be working on it.
Yep.
So that's a good thing.
So definitely post that kind of information when they ask for it, and be assured that they do take that into account. And yes, it was a lot that was posted to this thread, and Dan did the work and went through it and is thanking you for the robust amount of information. I'm sure he was like, wow, I got a lot to go through, but he's doing it, and that's great. So again, kudos to the community team doing a bunch of stuff for all of us.
Yeah, I mean,
which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, they did ask for the feedback.
Yeah. But then following through and letting us know that they're working on it and all of that kind of thing, that's the part of the job of the community team that I think we really appreciate. Asking for feedback and it going into a black hole, even if something's going on behind the scenes, that's nice. But hearing about it, that's even better.
Yes, good point.
And last up in the news, there will be a patch on Friday morning. So this podcast will probably be coming out on Friday after the patch is already out. But a Friday morning is a little bit weird. But 6.1b is coming out. I think they wanted to hit hard a couple of the things that needed to be fixed a little bit sooner. They were impacting the master mode flashpoints in particular, and
I don't think it's that weird.
It's a weird day. It's not a Tuesday, I guess is all I'm saying.
I think that we just have to accept that patch day is kind of fluid.
It's fluid.
It's often not Tuesday.
It's a fluid. It expands to fill its
like they do
space.
maintenance
you're
on
right.
Tuesday, but they don't always do the patch.
And it's been it's been more variable in the last year than it ever has before.
Right.
So
I think they've gotten away from having to do it on Tuesday and fixing those last few things before.
just like our podcast is on Tuesday.
That's right.
The two things that are in the patch, so the patch notes is quite small, and I think that's why it's a 6.1b and not a 6.11 or a 6.2, obviously, or anything like that. One is the health of most of the non-boss encounter NPCs has increased in all difficulties for the Karagos Palace operation. This is in particular to combat a conquest farming technique that was going on with Karagos Palace. You'd get 16 people together, you'd form a group, you'd go into Karagos Palace, you'd kill all the trash outside of Karagos Palace before the first boss, you'd go out, you'd reset, you'd go back in, kill all that trash again. You could basically pull all of that trash, kill it all at the same time, kill it all at once, and farm it over and over and over, and then in 15 minutes that your character hit conquest. Yeah, it's not an exploit. They didn't ban anybody, but it is unintended, and because that's the path of least resistance, a lot of people then take it to be the only path that they should be doing, and they're dumb for not doing it, which then forces a whole bunch of people into doing something completely unfun, which is kill some mobs, reset, kill the exact same mobs, reset, kill the exact same mobs over and over and over and over again all night. Boy, that's going to drive people crazy, even if they think that they're being really efficient and having fun. So I get why they nerf these things, and that's what they did. The other one, as we mentioned, is the change where they tweaked up Bolster a little bit to compensate and bring back up the stats just a little bit after nerfing the stats in Master Mode operations by getting rid of the Veterans Edge stacks. Again, we'll talk about that a little bit more later. In Guild and Community news, we do have a monthly Epic Guild activity for Alea Iacta Est Guild in Star Wars The Old Republic tomorrow night, March 13th. So if you're hearing this on March 13th when it is getting published, it is tonight on Starforge at 8 p.m. Central, and it's a pretty simple one. It's one that we like to hit from time to time. We do have a more complex server guild event coming up in the future, but this one, we were going to have it this week. We've sort of pushed it off. This one tomorrow night is World Boss Hunt. So relatively straightforward. We can bring in characters that are all different levels. We can go start it on some of the low planets, and we'll see if we get a solid group of 16. We may even be getting some shots in on Nightmare Pilgrim.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a challenge. I mean, that's serious business at this point in the game. You need 16 people, no more, no less. Well, you could potentially do it with less if you're super geared and super lead. I'm sure there's people out there that can do it with 3 people. Go ahead and send me those those notes and tell me how dumb I am that thinking I actually need 16 people. Anyway, typically you'll want 16 people, and because of the bolster and all your stats are capped then on the planet, you'll also need 16 people that know their rotations and can put out the DPS to get through that fight. It's not trivial, so it's a fun one. We hope to be doing it tomorrow night. Get in there, and we'll rotate people around if we have more than 16 people. So I've done enough Nightmare Pilgrim. I'll let somebody take my spot if it comes to that. Anyone on the server, Starforge, that wants to come in and join us, 8 p.m. Central, be there.
It's like a pub crawl, but it's a world boss crawl.
Yeah, it's like a pub crawl if you went in and shot every bartender.
Okay, that's distressing now.
It's kind of distressing, isn't it? Wow. Just thought of that.
As Max mentioned, we are going to do the Amazing Race. It's going to be later, though, not this month. Probably April. It's a scheduling thing, so we'll let you know when it's going to be, but the Amazing Race is coming.
And the Amazing Race is a fully epic of epic activities that our guild invented probably 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
We invented it first in Star Wars. Now we do it in a bunch of our other games as well. And it's a takeoff on the reality show Amazing Race, where You get a clue to go to a location. You find that location. You race there, and once you're there, you get a roadblock challenge, which means there's a little thing you need to do. Maybe you need to duel an officer, or maybe you need to find a mob and shoot it, or maybe you need to dress up in a costume and do a dance. Whatever it is, you've got a challenge to solve to get the next clue to go to the next location, and that gets chained through a few different locations across the galaxy. And that's how we race it. We're probably going to be doing it with letting everyone get together and catch up so no one gets left behind. And then having a couple twists for how points are scored, not only by who gets there first, but who does well on the challenges, and a couple other fun things thrown in. It is truly one of my favorite player-created events in any MMO. So if you're going to be able to join us, I think it's probably going to be in April. I keep an ear out for that. It's gonna be epic and mega. It's gonna be monthly and epic, a guild activity. Shout out to the chat room. Thank you, all of us. Thank us, all of you from all of us. Thank you. Thank you for telling me that the audio levels are fine, even if I cannot use them to properly speak. We got the word as we came into the start of the show that we are live 5x5 in the pipe, and that means that we are coming in loud and clear and a clear signal. And with that, this is a little audio clip to kick off our segment that I pulled from the start of the Ducks in Operation.
Welcome to Jurassic Park.
You totally, now even going, every time I go back through it, I just realize more and more the whole operation is an homage to Jurassic Park in some really fun ways. They should have had, when you're typing on the console to shut off to turn on the force fields after the second gauntlet run, they should have had like Newman's face come up on the monitor and wave his finger at you and go, and then you got to kill the big droids and that kind of thing. It is a fun operation. And now, since we have killed Apex Vanguard in story mode, we are, of course, experts. And I realized we had not gone through and talked through all of the fights in Nature of Progress since it was on the PTS. We talked a little bit about it being launched after the fact, but now we're done. So we're gonna touch on all the fights. We'll talk about them in general. We'll talk about what we expect out of Master Mode as it gets released soon. And as I said, we'll circle back a little bit on that. What's up with this level 70 Master Mode operations? I keep saying flashpoints, but level 70 Master Mode operations. So we have 5 fights. Seema, do you have any particular? I mean, we could start at the beginning and just go through them, or 6 fights. No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 fights. 6 fights. 6 boss. 6 loot drops. 6. It's sort of a 6 boss fight in a way, even though the second fight is sort of a 2-stage gauntlet without even a major boss. That's part of it. Do you want to just give an overview of your take on, is this the best operation or raid of any game, or just your favorite in Star Wars? Which of the two?
Well, I have to say, I mean, this is a weird way to start, but I do like it better than Gods from the Machine, which is weird because I like the setting in Gods from the Machine. I like the idea of Gods from the Machine, but I really like the boss fights in Ducks, and even the sort of gauntlet / trash ones. I just think there's enough to do, but it's not overwhelming. And yeah, it's learnable and doable. And once you do learn them, then it's repeatable. Like in Gods from the Machine, and this is not the fault of the operation, this is on us, but we never really figured out how the Skyva fight actually works.
Has anyone ever? Does Matt Pusevich even really know?
I'm sure many people know.
There's the thing and the side and get bounced in the air, but then sometimes you don't. Do you want to not get bounced in the air? Or do you want to allow yourself to get bounced in the air? And It's a little,
But I
fuzzy.
I think it's completely different in all these fights that, once you learn the mechanics, I mean, and they're doable and they're obvious. I mean, I don't know if obvious is the right word. I understand them, so that makes me want to say that they're obvious because, when they're subtle, then I don't get them. But yeah, so that's what I like about it. The one thing I will say though is since it's in the like corporate offices of Zerka, which I also like, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I do get lost
Yeah.
because it's like inside an office building and the places, from place to place to place, they look the same as they would.
As they would. As
Yeah.
bunch of big cubicle farm and a bunch of hallways and a couple different elevators on different wings of the office building and once
And it's like when I turn a corner and I see that broken window, I'm like, oh, thank God. I'm going to jump through the broken window and then I'm going to be where I'm going.
and
Um,
you go up one elevator at one point and then not in the other point and you got to go the other way when you're coming up to the second fight and it's mostly a problem when you wipe. Cuz when you wipe,
right.
then you're coming back
Yeah.
from the beginning and then the way you went the first time, like if you wipe on the Huntmaster, which is the only thing we're wiping with it that we wiped on. If you wipe on the Huntmaster, then you're coming back and you don't go the way you went the first time through, and the way we've been going through in multiple weeks as we've been doing that fight. You got to remember that now you opened up the other way and you got to go the other way, and it gets all confusing.
Right. So you don't want to climb those stairs again, for sure.
The stairs
And I
are
get,
awesome.
people are complaining about the stairs and there's a mechanic in Duxon, if you don't know, where you have to go up, I don't know, 8 or 10 flights of stairs. As you approach the top, your character gets weighed down with exhaustion and you go slower and slower and slower.
Right.
People, after they've done that mechanic like a few hundred times, they're like, can we please have a button that just gets us past that? I totally get that. But we haven't done it
Yeah.
that many times yet, so we're like fine with it.
Right. And it's hilarious. So
It is.
I'm gonna give it to him. I'm gonna give it to Matt and run it as many times as Matt insists that I need to run it because it is hilarious.
It
the
is hilarious.
the debuff and you bent over and huffing and puffing to as you run up those stairs is pretty hilarious. But then you unlock the elevator and then you can take the elevator from there.
Yeah. You only have to do it once, in other words.
There are 6 fights, as we mentioned. The first fight is very Jurassic Park, dinosaur fight. In fact, the dinosaur name, the nickname of the dinosaur is named Red, as opposed to Blue, which is the character of the last couple. One of the main dinosaur characters of the last couple Jurassic Park movies. Red. I was just showing a picture of Red. In fact, I've got a couple videos here. I was out tonight. I meant to get in there and I wanted us all to clear it and I wanted to video the whole thing and be able to go through our video on this, but I did not. I've got 3 other guilds that posted their videos on YouTube. I've got a couple. I want to give them a shout out if they put their names in here. Maybe they didn't. So this is just Sil Wizarmir who posted a video, but so I'll show you some pictures of people fighting this and give these guys a shout out. But Red here, the first fight is to fight the dinosaur, and you drag in this dinosaur through the various trails and paths that are outside the compound. And when you fight this dinosaur-ish creature, the reason you're fighting it is because it ate one of the it ate one of the workers, one of the lab people, the Zerka people, who has an ID card. But the ID cards are indestructible. They're made with special materials so that they don't get destroyed. Nothing else is, and no other protection for the employees, because that's kind of expensive. But the ID cards, at least, this is a throwback to the dialogue, and that's another show we're going to do at some point where we just go through the story and the dialogue, which is hilarious. Listen to it. It's a combination of just corporate corporate hilarity mixed with Portal GLaDOS mixed in as sort of one of the main antagonists, the AI that's controlling the compound, and a lot of great stuff going on. But you fight this boss by dragging it along, and as you start to get the bad stacks stacking up on you, there are these flowers, this fungus that's along the path, and when you pop those open, the blue circle around that flower, that fungus that you pop, when you click on it, will take the stacks off of you. So it's a combination of just making sure you've got the boss lined up correctly. You're dragging the boss from spot to spot, and you're clearing those stacks off you as you need them. There's a little bit of extra trash that comes out a couple times in the fight, but otherwise, pretty straightforward fight. Pretty fun fight. Just don't stand in the stuff. Don't point the boss at the group, and get those stacks cleared off of you as you need. Now, Seema, you usually are in control of the flowers and clicking
Sten.
them. Yeah. So how does that how does that work out for you? Is it relatively reasonable to be the healer and healing and still clicking those flowers and managing that part of the fight?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The only time it got hairy at all was in the first few times you did it when the ads show up, because there's a lot of effects going on, and then you're sort of like, oh wait, I should click a flower. Where's the flower again?
Yeah.
And there's, with the ads, there's poison, and there's just a lot of stuff going on. But it's the right amount of stuff.
Yep. It sure is. One other resource I want to call out that I was using to even prepare for walking through this and reminding myself of everything that happened. The best guide out there, if you want a guide to these fights that I've found, is from Zamzam on mmobits.com. She's got a guide up, and she's got a guide. It goes through each of the fights. So that's also what I'm remembering to remind myself of this and make sure I'm not missing any of the salient points.
I like her guides. They're concise. They tell you what you need to know.
Right. They're concise. They tell you what they need to know, and it's written in text. I love text guides that are concise. I get it that people get, you get a lot of clicks on your YouTube video, and it's great to have, that 10,000 views, but I can't be in the middle of an ops fight and need to know, what's the best order to kill these Tranthoceans again, and have to watch a 10-minute video. I can't do that. I
thought you were going to say you can't be in the middle of a conference call and watch a video.
Well, that I could do.
Oh,
I just need to turn captions on or something. No, that too. I like the idea of a concise bulleted list. In fact, even if there's like a TLDR of here's the 5 steps at the very top, that would even be perfect. So if you're sort of experienced with the fight, but you just need the reminder on what those top 5 steps are. Tanks pointed away from the group, click on the flowers, kill the big ad first, kill the little ads, and when it's at X%, ignore the ads and burn it down. Great.
There's a guy who writes 5-second boss guides for WoW bosses, and yeah, that's exactly what it needs to. That's a great idea.
There's a 3-minute boss guy.
No, this is
guides.
5 seconds.
5 seconds, yeah. So that's what it should be.
He's basically saying, yeah, no one's gonna read a 3-minute or watch a 3-minute guide anymore.
It's the Twitter. I guess we just need TikTok. Set 7 seconds on TikTok, right?
Right.
So we all boss guides, all video content. Actually, starting next week, SWTOR Escape podcast, 7 seconds. That's all it's gonna be. So keep an eye out for that, and you'll love it. So that's Red. That's the first fight. Red is fun and cool and really fun dialogue around it. Once you get that ID card off of Red, then you can get into the compound itself. So once you get into the door of the compound, the first room you get into has some vials on a desk around the corner and a box on the floor with the light rods, the flares. Light rods. You're a light rod. The flares, and it will have in random spots, often in that first room, volume 1 of the Codex extra codex entries that you can find, and those spawn in random places. I think everyone in our team has Volume 1 and Volume 2 checked off. Do we even?
I don't
Has
have
anybody
volume
even
2. I
found?
just have volume. I just have volume.
What is? Look up that achievement and let me know if someone
Okay.
in the chat room look up the achievement and let me know how many of those volumes there even are in the operation, because I don't even know. I mean, we found Volume 1 and Volume 2 quite often.
Well, I think there's 5 because the achievement. I'm looking at the achievement. And it's, I need 2, 4, and 5, and I don't think there's a 3. But
Yep,
let me
here, Ducks and
double check.
Cipher 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Oh, so there's 5.
Oh, so I don't have number 2 either. I have 1 and 3.
That's what I have. 1 and 3.
You've found a hidden tome containing a seemingly eclectic collection of expense reports, project outlines, and experiment data, and personnel biographies. An inscription inside the cover appears to be part of a code. If you can find the other tomes, perhaps you can solve it. Wow, that's compelling. And now I'm totally going to go after those. I got to solve it. It's a puzzle. It's a mystery. So that's the first fight. Then as you get in there, now you're in the compound. There's 2 more fights, sort of. There's a break in between. It ends up being 2 fights, but what it is one long chain as you're going through. And it doesn't stop once you open the door and you start walking out through the yards and the outside compounds. After you get into that first room, you're going back outside, inside the compound a little bit. There's a bunch of mobs that are basically loose and they're chasing you down. So as you go through the first set, it is a relatively straightforward gauntlet run where you just need to keep going, kill a couple bigger things along the way. A bunch of ads are spawning. You're killing them. You kill a big droid to get through the door at the end. You kill a couple more big mobs. You get into the room, another of these rooms. Here, I'll show you what it looks like. The Zamzam's got a picture of it. You get into another one of the rooms and close the door behind you. And as you're trying to close that door, there's a little bit of an in-game fun thing that goes on where you click on the console to close the door, and the voiceover says, "All right, it's shorted out. We're gonna have to turn on the other console. You're gonna have to open that fuse box, and you're gonna have to cut the third wire." And you click on it to cut the third wire, and then it says, "Third from the left." It's Mex. The guy's name is Mex, and he's got the most awesome voice. "That's impossible." He says that at some point. It's my favorite thing that he says. "That's impossible." Anyway, Mex yells at you for cutting the wrong wire. I do that cutting of the wire every time, and for some reason, I get it wrong every time, and I get yelled at.
You cut the wrong. Yes, you cut the wrong wire every time.
So cut the third. You have to click it twice, basically, is what it is, and let the scene play out. So the rest of the team is still fighting mobs as they're coming through that door while you're trying to save yourself by closing the doors behind you. Click the one console, click the fuse box, cut the wire, cut the wrong wire, cut the right wire, turn on the other fuse box. It only takes about 15 seconds total. Click that console, shut the doors. That's phase 1. So that's fight number 2. You do get oops, that's loud. You do get a drop. You get loot drop after doing that part of the fight. So here you're out in the yard, you're shooting. You get into the room at the end. Let's see what it looks like. This is Zamzam's video of it. They're fighting more mobs out there. Now they're inside. They're clearing out these mobs as they're clicking the consoles. Somebody's already getting more stims. And they didn't show it at the very end, but right here at the very end, as soon as you click those consoles, it shows up right there in the back. You can barely see it. One of those rocket drops hits the ground, and you loot it. That's your second set of loot out of the operation. In here, I mentioned it at the beginning of that first room, but the serum vials and the flares. Do you use those, Seema? The serum vials and the flares?
No.
I think we will end up using them in hard and master mode. In story mode, we just click on them for fun at random times.
Right. I mean, I tried to kill people at one point, but I haven't been to.
I don't know if it's just it doesn't do it anymore in story mode and it still does in the other modes, or if Matt took it out. But what was supposed to happen was the first time you use one of the serums on yourself, it gives you a little bit of a boost. But if you use
Or somebody else.
or someone else, yeah, is the first time it ever gets injected into somebody. The second or third time, I think it was like on the third time, it kills you. You get overloaded by the serum, and it does bad things to you. I don't know if he's still got it in the game, but it's a fun mechanic. So the chat room is saying you do need to use them, and then the flares have an effect. Well, they'll repel some of the ads, which again you'll probably use to great effect when you have waves and waves of hard hitting ads.
Yes.
The stims do the serum. Oh, you kill people on 3 serums. Yeah, so but it doesn't work in story mode because I keep injecting myself all the time. I'll tell you that. Hard nightmare mode, maybe it still works, which is awesome. Again, that's a Matt Pusevich special. I remember running it on the PTS and him whispering the group and him being all excited about how that stim worked. So thank you for that, Matt. So that's the second fight. The third fight is again, then you open the doors. It's a little bit of a gauntlet run again. It's a slightly different kind of gauntlet run. I just thought of these, Seema, these 2 fights, the first gauntlet run and the second gauntlet run. It's almost all trash.
Yeah.
What do you think of that? What do you think of that, Seema?
I don't mind them. It's entertaining enough, especially the one you're about to talk about with the lightning effects stuff.
Yes. So because you're right. This one, it's not just like a big pile of trash or the same pile of trash over and over. Each of these, you're sort of doing something along the way, and you got to keep on moving and keep on trucking. So it keeps it somewhat interesting. The key to this second fight then is not only is it a gauntlet of trash and you're killing the trash. You get into this open yard. Does she have a picture of it? I think we'll see what we got here.
I mean, also because it serves a purpose, like it is the fight. Like normally the whole point of trash is to slow you down and for there to be things to do between bosses.
Right. So here, as you get out into the main yard, there are lightning towers above the next building that you're running to. Those lightning towers will hurt you. They'll hurt you real bad. So if you can see this group right here is grouping up and hiding behind the rock. When the lightning towers turn on, you need to hide behind the rock. Then the lightning towers turn off, and you can run to the next rock. As you're running between rocks, you get a bunch of ads.
We're really good at hiding behind rocks.
We are good at hiding behind rocks.
I mean, if Underlooker taught us anything, it was how to hide behind.
This is true. This is
the way.
As you're hiding behind rocks, you'll get as you're running between rock to rock, you'll get a couple different kinds of ads. You get 2 of the smaller ads, the Fellshade Hunters, and you get out of the water, you get the crabs. The crabs, both of them have a little bit of annoying abilities as you're running this little bit of a gauntlet, because the Fellshade Hunters will have a knockback, so they'll knock you out from behind the rock if you're not positioning them correctly. The crabs they have the tongue thing. They will reel you in with their sticky tongue. I know that's not the official name of that ability, sticky tongue, but you don't want to get yanked into the lightning as that's coming back online. But you run from rock to rock. And then you get into sort of the final room of this gauntlet. In the final room, there's more flares, there's more serums, and there's a console in the back. The console in the back, again, I think is kind of hilarious. You have a 15-second cast to start. Your character starts typing real hard on the console. And it's like one of those hacker movies. And I keep yelling for the rest of my teammates, because if we put 2 or 3 people on that keyboard, we would probably hack it faster. You start clicking it, and about halfway through the cast bar, it crashes. So what's happening then is the GLaDOS AI is rebooting the system while the system is rebooting, the shields go down and a bunch of ads start streaming into the room. The ads start streaming in. This fight is all about controlling the ads, and then 2 big security droids come online. You need to control the ads, kill the security droids, and after you kill both the security droids, then you can click the console again, because now the console is rebooted, and finish clearing out all the ads, and that's the end of this second fight. Third fight. And you get some more loot. So no big boss for both of these. A little bit clever in sort of the mechanics and how you're running through it. And for it to be a loot drop, basically a boss fight in an operation, I thought that these were clever ways to handle a little bit different way to have a fight in an operation.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So this is the only trash in the game that Seema likes, apparently. As you're doing this in harder modes, there are additional mechanics. As you're doing it in harder modes, there are additional mechanics. You're going to have to deal with those mechanics. You can see here there's extra zones of death appearing around the red robots, and there's things you're going to need to be cognizant of as you go through this. Zamzam's got a little bit of write-up about what some of those mechanics are. And here's a point to talk about additional mechanics. The way master modes work, and I'm sure this is what Matt has done for the design of Duxon Master Mode, is there will be more mechanics to learn and more things to add onto the fight, and you will have new things to learn. It's not just going to be hit harder, do more DPS, kill. It's take a slightly longer fight. There's going to be new things you need to learn how to do, and potentially even more optimal use of some of the mechanics like the serums and the flares throughout the operation. So be ready for that. I think that's going to be a fun process, learning that and seeing some of the groups work through that. And then we'll talk about the difficulty in a second as well. Cognizant, the chat room is saying, is they don't hope they don't catch some of that cognizant. Cognizant 19. You don't want to avoid that stuff. 3 more fights. The next fight is another favorite fight of mine. In fact, this next fight might be my favorite fight of the operation. Mm-hmm. The Mutant Trandoshans, also affectionately known as the Power Rangers. In the Mutant Trandoshan fight, you jump down into a room. There's a broken window up above. There's a little bit of things you're doing as you're going through the middle of the compound where you're fighting Trandoshans within the office building itself. Basically, like a tactical street to street fighting, but with inside cubes, from cube to cube fighting, tactical fighting inside of an office building. So you fight a bunch of Trandoshans. You got to find another key card to get through another door. You get through that door, and there's some broken windows looking down into an area where they have a tram that like a little metro subway that's coming in. So this is like a little tram stop for the workers on the planet, that's very nice to have in their office building. And now that I think about it, that was really convenient for them. That tram
And for us.
It's going to be critically needed for us. We end up using that tram as a key mechanic in the fight, and that's the only way to complete the fight is to use that tram to run over these 4 Trandoshans that you're fighting. So there's 4 Trandoshans. There's 4 colors of each Trandoshan. Each Trandoshan they're named Trandoshans. They're named bosses. Titax, Chronosis, who are the other guys? Red guy and
Hissy
green guy, red guy, blue guy, and orange guy. Oh, I don't even know what color. Yellow guy. Yellow, green, blue, red. They need to be killed, and there is an optimal order. You can actually there's a couple different ways to do it. There isn't only one way. So there's an optimal order. Your group will come up with an optimal order. You can think about it that way. You can look at some of the guides. There's a way to maybe, like in some cases, kill 2 at a time. The key mechanic there, though, is these guys are super Trandoshans, and as they get low in the fight, as their health gets lower and lower, once they hit 15%, they shield themselves, they become immune to damage, and they turn on a regeneration ability. And if they complete that regeneration phase, that regeneration cycle of theirs, then they jump back into the fight at full health and do a whole bunch more damage. So you do not
and make
want
you pay.
Yeah, they heal to full and make you pay. Good. Well played, Seema. Well played, Sork Healer. Well played. So you need to kill them, and the way you kill them then when they are stunned and shielded and regenning health is you need to kill them on the train tracks. You need to get them to 15%, but not before your tank who's tanking the one that you're about to kill has them positioned on the train tracks. And then as they are lined up and ready to go there, so as you see Sisyphus is there on the train tracks at 15%, someone needs to be clicking the console to call the train. And then the train and GLaDOS has an awesome voiceover when the train's coming. And how does it go, Seema? It's like...
The train will be arriving in 6 minutes. The train will be arriving. Whoosh.
Oh, you cut out there for a second. The train will be arriving in error minutes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the train will be arriving in error minutes. And then the train comes, and if you're on the tracks, you die. And
Right.
if the shielded Trandoshan is on the tracks, they die. If they are not shielded, they jump out of the way. It's also quite disturbing and dramatic when they get hit by the train. There's a lot of splash.
I was going to say
blood.
satisfying.
Yeah, maybe satisfying. They do like explodey splash. They're like a blood bag, and they pop. It's kind of gross.
I guess it's satisfying because there's a lot going on at once. You're trying to hold everything together, like, your one tank is tanking one of them, and one tank is trying to time it, and there's the button. We're trying to keep everyone alive. So when the first time we did the first one got killed, it was like, nice.
Yeah, it is quite satisfying here. You'll just see it in the lower right here in Zamzam's video. The train's about to hit. Splash. Look at that splatter. That blood splatter. So again, you can look at the mechanics, and there's a couple more things going on in hard mode, and there'll be even more in master mode. There's some extra stuff with the green tanks that are on the south side of the room there, that you need to be aware of in story mode and be careful of in how you use them in hard mode. But it's a game of kill each of the bosses by getting them down to 15% when they are on the tracks, and finish the fight that way. Amusing.
Right.
Amusing and fun, and we, I think, do it slightly differently than Zamzam's video, and the hard mode mechanic is set up to do it. It was just easier for us to do it a slightly different way when we were learning the fight. So you might have an opportunity there to discover a unique way to do the fight as you go through it. So keep that in mind. Penultimate fight in the game is our least favorite fight of the game. Well,
I like it.
It's not too bad. It was our least favorite in terms of progression. We wiped on this fight more than any other fight in the operation.
I don't know. It took us a while to figure out our strat for the Trandoshans, and then it took us a while to figure out what was actually going on in the Master Class.
Yes.
Fight.
And there's a couple reasons for that. There still is this fight has a significant bug in it. If you die in the operation at all, say you wiped once on the Trandoshans or whatever. If you die, then one of the key mechanics here, which is when the Huntmaster throws the fire grenade on you, you drop a pool of fire on the ground. That's a useful pool of fire that's used to kill trash in certain times, in certain scenarios. You don't want to stand in it for one, because it will kill you. You do potentially, it's in certain points, want to drag adds through it. If you can't see it because it's invisible, because it's bugged, that's a problem. So it
is challenging.
What you're doing here in this fight with the Huntmaster is there is a flare probe that's floating around the room, and that flare circle is the big white circle, and that's getting smaller and smaller and smaller over time. being in that circle prevents any of the ads from getting to you and jumping on you and hurting you, because they bounce off of that circle. They hate the flare. They run away from the flare. They don't want to be in that. They run away from the light. Carry on. The off tank can take the ads and group them up and sort of bring the ads and knock the ads into that fire to either kill some of the ads while you're doing a bunch of damage to the Huntmaster. If you need to be clearing ads, they could also just be grouping up the ads and using them. You could do a little bit of DPS to the ads if you needed to clear out some of the ads if there was too many of them. There will be a couple times in the fight though when you need a bunch of the ads up, especially in story mode. And again, I'm not exactly. I'm talking mostly about story mode mechanics, and this is, again, it's going to be slightly different for the hard mode mechanics. But in story mode, you need enough ads up when he goes into his shield phase, his holdout phase, because he's going to jump off to the side of the arena over by the water and start taking pot shots. If he doesn't have ads to shoot, he's going to start shooting your group, and 2 shots will kill you. One, or if you're not at full health, even 1 shot can kill you. While this is going on, this is why you need enough ads up, because this is the time when he's now taking pot shots at ads. This radius of the circle that's around him when he's in a holdout position is 30 meters. So only people like the Sorks and snipers, I believe, can do any damage to him. Mercenaries and obviously melee cannot do any damage to him. You shouldn't have to be doing damage to him during that point in the fight. That's not the point of that point. You don't have to have Sorks in your group to be able to finish this fight. It just helps you to do a little bit of extra damage. As you saw, that group had multiple Sorks doing damage during that point in the fight. Then it repeats. It repeats for a little bit until he gets low enough in health. And again, I think it's at about 15%, 20% or 15% or so, maybe even 10%. Let's see where he's at. Then you go into the final phase where he jumps again to his holdout position. He acts like he's going to do something really big and mean to you. And then a giant crab jumps out of the water. What's the crab's name? Isn't it like Shelly or something like that?
Yeah, like shillelagh or something.
Shillelagh or something like that. 35%. Oh, chat room saying 35%, even higher than I thought. 35%, and then you need to kill the shell monster crab that eats the Huntmaster. First, the shell monster kills the Huntmaster, and then you need to kill that crab before it's got a couple mechanics there that can kill you as well.
And what we found out is that if he eats one of the tanks, which basically you want to avoid that. Yeah. Then while the tank is inside him, you can't heal him or anything, but then he poops him out and then you can.
Mm. Like if one of your tanks gets ingested.
Yeah, don't stand in the little pink circle, as she says.
Yeah, there's big text. Don't stand in the little pink circle.
She says you'll be one shot and unable to res, which is true. But if enough time goes by, you'll be pooped out again, and then you can.
In story mode, at least. Maybe in hard mode, maybe not. Maybe you're just dead.
Oh yeah, that could be.
So fun fight. Our main problem in story mode is we have a solid amount of DPS, and as we were trying to figure out how we wanted to do the fight, and we were sort of grouping ourselves up, and we're killing the ads as they're coming out, and we were killing too many ads. We would get into his holdout phase, and there would not be enough ads, and then he'd just start killing our group, and then we'd wipe because we'd come out of this phase with only like 3 people alive. Like, oh, I try to get more ads up, and then we did it a couple times last week when we were going through this. I think we wiped like 2 or 3 times, and we kept accidentally killing more ads. So we had to really hold back and let the off tank just run around with extra ads. And not kill ourselves. Okay, so that leads us to the last fight, which we did last week. We talked about a little bit. Easier fight, I think, than most of the other fights in the operation. I think it's definitely easier than Huntmaster and Trandoshan Squad. I think it's even easier than Red. probably not easier than the 2 gauntlet fights, which I think are pretty easy. But Apex Vanguard. Apex Vanguard is in story mode, relatively straightforward once you learn it. But you could like learn it from reading a guide and having your tanks. The tanks are going to be doing most of the work in the mechanics of the fight. And once everybody sort of knows their job, and the off tank who's running the power cell around, activating the various consoles that are on the outside of the room, especially in story mode, it's pretty straightforward. You know, it's a priority system of if this ability comes up, you got to clear that ability first. So what's going on here is you're fighting this Apex Vanguard. The Apex Vanguard is this giant nasty beast, and it's been bioengineered by Zerka. They do what they must because they can. So they have created this giant nasty monster and given it a whole bunch of awesome, fun, hilarious abilities. Those abilities include like shooting rockets, dumping acid on the ground. When it gets dark, it gets more powerful. When it gets light, it heals up. So it's got like photosynthesis regen in it, and the voiceover GLaDOS throughout the fight is explaining these awesome mechanics in sort of like a sales pitch to you, and talking about it as it goes through it. What you're doing then with the consoles on the outside of the room, if you saw Zam's picture here, there are 5 consoles on the outside of the room. Each of those consoles has a different set of abilities that you'll need to use for various parts of the fight. You only need to use 4 of them for story mode. I don't think you use the stims at all in story mode. But you're using 1 to wash the floor. You're using 1 to blow the poison out of the room. You're using 1 for I don't even remember, like 1 for doing something, turning the lights on and off, I think is part of it. And I don't even know. But the make your tanks figure out what they're supposed to be doing with those consoles.
Yes.
The target lock for the rockets, that's a key one. When you get target locked on the rockets, you got to use one of the consoles to break that target lock. That's got to be done right away. As you're tanking the boss around the outside of the room, you see she's got some of the directions here. You're going to be dropping acid pools on the ground. The washing console washes all that acid away so you don't fill up the room with the acid. As I said, once the poison starts to fill up, you got to clear the poison out of the room with the fans. All of that's done by taking this battery power cell and walking around with it. The trick with the battery power cell is there is the point early in the fight when you first get into the office building and start fighting the Trandoshans where you need to run downstairs and get an extra power cell. You can play with it there while you're clearing that trash and clearing the Trandoshans. The power cell works by each step you take with the power cell. Just like walking up the stairs, you get slower and slower and slower. You can set the power cell down in story mode. The tank can set the power cell down and wait a little bit because the abilities aren't coming so quick that they can't sort of clear their stacks as they go. So in story mode, we just do it with one tank is tanking the boss the whole time, another tank is dealing with the power cell and just doing a little bit of dropping the power cell when they need to and picking it back up. I'm wondering if in hard mode, and the chat room can or even Zam's instructions here might talk about it. I'm wondering if you have to do a tank swap. If not in hard mode, I bet in master mode you'll need to be doing a tank swap just to clear those stacks off the tank that needs to be running around with that power cell. Because you'll just get slower and slower and slower, and you won't be able to be getting to the consoles to be able to utilize those abilities. But that's how this fight works then. You've got a couple ways to do it. Yeah, the chat room here is saying that most groups don't do a tank swap, but a few groups do. And again, I wonder if in master mode it's going to be sort of timed and set, so you're going to have to do a tank swap and deal with that. So it's as you get that dance down, and the tank who's controlling that power cell knows what they're supposed to be doing and when, it gets pretty straightforward because they know, target lock is on. I'll go clear that off, and then poison's up. I'm gonna go do that. I got a free moment here. I'll wash the floor. Blah 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 blah. And they go around and they do their things, and it goes pretty well. So what's the healer view of this fight, Seema?
It's very easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dent
Okay.
and Corley, our two tanks, are really doing all the work.
Yeah. So, tanks doing the way it's easy from a DPS perspective in story mode. Again, as I said, it's one of the easiest fights on the operation in from that perspective. And the tanks might say it's slightly different, especially in story mode. It's still probably pretty easy for them. I know in hard mode, it definitely starts to get harder, and there's a bunch more coordination. There's flares that you'll need to be dealing with, and there's things going on with the light and dark that I know are definitely more complicated. And then the circles that you're dropping on the ground that you can cleanse off yourself are much more important. That are a little bit of extra stuff that the healers and DPS need to worry about as well. Otherwise, fun times. I think we wiped on this once our first night and got it down to 5%, even in that, and didn't have time for a second attempt. And our second time on this fight, we cleared it, and that was after wiping for a couple weeks and sort of running into a wall for a bit as we were just being bad at the Hunt Master fight.
On Huntmaster.
Yeah, that was that slowed us down. We
What helped us get through the Apex Predator so quickly is that, Dent and Corley figured out the fight, and then they knew what they had to do, and then the rest of us are just like doing our normal job.
Right. So in our last couple minutes here, I did want to circle back. I'll pop back into the game there. I did want to circle back and mention the idea of the Veterans Edge stacks and them coming out of level 70 operations, and what the deal is there and what is going in the patch tomorrow morning. This does not affect what goes on in hard mode or what'll be happening in master mode when it comes out. First of all, it's only for master modes, but it's not for master mode Ducks and Nature of Progress. This is only for master mode of everything else besides Nature of Progress. Veterans Edge is the 30 stacks that you get on you. Why do I not have when you're in that level 70 down leveled content? Oh, it's because I'm on Onderon. I do not have Veterans Edge stacks. Why don't I go to another planet? And I think you even have them on the planet. What they are is the difference between basically 270 gear and 306 gear. As your gear sort of ramps up, they are a compensator to say, hey, you ranked up your gear. We're going to give you that Veterans Edge stack on top of the cap. Yeah, see here, I've got my 30 stacks of Veteran Edge as soon as I got back to Alderaan. Alderaan is capped in the terms of stats that you have. Veterans Edge says, well, you leveled up, you got all your 306 gear, you optimized your gear. We're gonna give you a little bit boost over what we set that cap on that planet to be, so that you can take advantage and feel like you've progressed by getting your 306 gear. We're not gonna make it like you didn't do anything.
Right.
What they did for master mode operations, just recently, a couple weeks ago, a month ago now? I think it was just 2 weeks ago now. They got rid of Veterans Edge, these stacks. They got rid of them completely for master mode. So we talked about this a little bit last week and the week before. It's the equivalent then of saying you might as well just go in there with your 270 gear. Because anything especially of the main stat of the power and the like mastery and your mastery and endurance, your Veterans Edge, which if you got up to 306 does impact like hard mode operations and just being on the planet, that no longer counts for master mode. So you might as well just be in there in 270. Now, tertiary stats, your alacrity and your crit off of your 306 gear, that does matter and that does impact. So it's not. I get it that it's not the same as going in there with 270, but the fact that this Veteran Edge went away took a bunch of your stat bonus off of what you were getting when you were going and doing master mode. The reason they did that is they wanted master modes to be harder. Everyone felt that they were a little bit too easy. They wanted to make them a little bit harder. I don't think this was the most optimal way for them to do that. I think there was potentially better ways, even though it would have been a lot more work, which would be to actually tune up each of the operations to where they want them to be. But this was an easier lever to pull for them to just yank that out and say, we're going to take that stat boost away, and now you don't get Veteran's Edge. Now, what they're doing tomorrow is they're changing bolster. So what bolster is where your stat cap allows you to go when you get scaled back down to 70 when you're going into those operations. And they're cranking it up a tiny bit. So the 30 stacks of Veteran's Edge cranked you down a lot. The amount that they're cranking up, the people that have been testing on the PTS, seems like they're cranking it back up about a quarter, maybe a fifth of what they took away. So they're not giving it all back. They're only giving a little back because they felt like it got nerfed a little bit too hard. That's what's going in. That's what's going in tomorrow, is giving you a little bit back. The angst, the debate, the argument is two camps. One saying, we don't want it any harder. Please don't make it harder. We were progressing through master modes, and making it harder at all sets us back in our progression, and it feels bad. The other camp is saying master modes should be really hard, and if you make them any easier, I'm going to quit the game, because only the top 1% should be able to even do this stuff anyway, and unless there's something for me to do as the top 1% of the game that's super hard, I'm going to quit. So there's an argument to be had on both sides of that. So given that, Seema, what's your take? What's your hot take?
Well, first of all, as soon as they announced that they were going to mess with bolster, the immediate response was, you're going to make it easy like story mode and for it. So that was before they even had. I literally stopped reading at that point, really. I mean,
Yeah.
it's hard to take them serious. So the game or the balance is always going to be, how do you make master mode hard enough without making it
Right.
impossible? It's always going to be balanced. And yeah, they didn't get it right when you could go in there with 30 stacks of Veteran's Edge.
Right.
And they probably didn't get it right when they removed it completely.
Right.
But tweaking is the way you get there, and so that's what we're going to do now. That's what they are going to do now. They're going to tweak.
Yeah, I think bolster and Veteran's Edge are not the right levers to pull. Although I get that they're easy levers. That's my view.
Right. Yeah. If they had from the beginning, if they had tweaked like you said, tweaked the fights themselves, that would have been the way to go.
The other thing I think, and the chat room saying there, Andy in the chat room, and Denull PvP, I get that the master mode content was too easy, and that's I agree with that. Not everybody does, but I agree with that. I think there's been a couple clever requests or suggestions or asks inside of the threads, and basically it equates to either could you then just maybe take hard modes, and if here's story mode and here's master mode, hard mode is like way over here on this closer to the story mode side. Could you scoot hard mode like either more towards the middle or more towards the master mode side, so there's more of like a progression and you really feel like you had to like learn a fight and do something hard to do hard mode? Or what if you added a fourth mode? What if we had like story mode, hard mode, master mode where master mode was at with the 30 stacks even potentially, and then a nightmare mode on top of that was like everything master mode is, plus, and that was only like the top 0.5% or the top 1%, would even come close to completing that. I think that's kind of interesting. I think it would be interesting to have more opportunity for progression there. And I kind of like the idea, just as just as a counterpoint to those elite teams that say you just need to learn how to play, to have something in the game that's practically mathematically impossible that they can go beat their heads against and be elite about. I think that's what I want. I want Master Mode Duxon I want Matt to tune that so hard that, if your crits on average, if you just get unlucky on the number of crits in your DPS, you don't make the DPS check. I want it like mathematically riding the edge of even what's possible in optimal gear, optimal sets, optimal classes, and optimal everything. And if no one ever completes it, then fine, ratchet it back after that.
Okay, so yes, I mean, maybe if we did have the 4 modes, but there are teams out there that are not, the 1%, and they're not like they're not like us. They're somewhere in between. And we know this is going to be the new op for however long,
right?
A year, 2 years, however many. Why shouldn't they be able to work towards Nightmare?
Right. And that's without those 4 modes. I don't think you can crank Nightmare mode or Master mode all the way over to that direction.
Right.
I agree, and I think that's why either where it's at now, with this we'll see where it feels with this bolster after the update tomorrow. Hopefully, it's in a place where those teams that were working into that progression, that were working on it, not that they had completed it all. I know lead teams have been clearing Master modes for forever. That's not the point. It's the teams that were progressing and now are set back. If they can still be progressing a little bit and get on the path back to where they were, then I think that's okay. And that's where I think things need to be right now, unless they add in a 4th mode. All right, we've gone long tonight, Seema, and
yeah.
and I know we were wondering what we're going to talk about earlier this evening. So I think we have talked about all the things that we're going to talk about. I think we've got something interesting, hopefully something interesting and fun lined up for next week as well. We'll have to see how this stuff goes over the weekend with this update, and look forward to 6.1.2, which will be coming out before long as well. So with that, please keep up with us on Twitter at MaxTheGray and at AIESEMA. And if you know any fun people that should be coming and playing with us, that's why we do this podcast, they can come check us out on Starforge. We have an AIE, Aleacta Est guild on both sides on Starforge. Best place to find us and find guild from information with us is at aie-guild.org. There's a link to our guild Discord on there. You can get in there and you can ask us in the SWTOR channel for a guild invite on either of the sides. And you can certainly check us out and learn more about us on the podcast at YouTube/New Overlords, Twitch.tv/New Overlords. Subscribe. Something the bell. I don't even know what the bell does. Is that notifications? I watch YouTube videos and they say ring that bell. Does that mean, is that like I think that's a notification thing?
On YouTube it means you'll get a notification when they post a new.
Oh, I don't touch the bell. I don't do anything with the bell. So if you would like to ring
Stay away from the bell.
If you would like to do something with the bell with our podcast, feel free. We are not affiliates. We don't get anything from YouTube, so it really doesn't matter. But
no.
If you want to know when the next time we're posting
we don't ever have to worry about becoming demonetized, because we effectively just demonetized
we're
ourselves.
sort of protected there. Fine.
Yeah.
Take all our money.
Of which there is none.
I sell nothing. I sell absolutely nothing. And with that, we will talk to you soon.
Later, everyone.
I lost my outro. There we go.